M from Kaspersky Lab is joining me on Skype. Today he's going to be unpacking the term digital amnesia and telling us if it's something that we should all be worried about. Hello, David.
Hello.
It's nice to speak to you again.
You too.
Now, digital amnesia is a term that we're hearing more and more about. Why don't you explain to us what it is?
Okay. In days gone by, before we had our dependence on the internet and on digital devices, we tended to remember lots of important information, like people's phone numbers, for example. What we've seen happen really in recent years is that the more we have become dependent on our smart devices for storing really important information, the less we tend to remember it off the top of our heads. So these devices really have become an extension of our memories, and so that the information isn't lost, and it typically is at our fingertips, but it's not normally just on the tip of our tongues in the way that it would have been maybe when we were younger, remembering our home phone number and things like that.
It's funny you say that because as you were saying that, I thought I still remember my best friend's phone number from when I was 10 years old and my parents' first phone number, but I don't know anyone's phone number now. I don't even know my own.
No, exactly. And you don't need to. I mean, it's all in, whether it's Skype contacts, whether it's text messages, whether it's phones, we all have it on our smartphones or on our tablets.
Now, should we be worried that we can't remember this almost vital information? Is that a worry we should have, or should we embrace the technology?
Well, I think we should embrace the technology. Certainly, when we did our research into this, and we had some researchers, academic researchers involved on this from the sort of psychology side, they weren't highlighting this as a problem that we need to be worried about per se. I think the worry comes in the fact that while we consign lots of information into the care of our devices, we don't necessarily pay proper attention to protecting those devices. And because of the risk of malware attack, for example, or the fact that we might lose the device or have it stolen, or in fact that there's a hardware problem, which means that the data gets erased, the fact is that if we don't secure those devices, then all that information that we expect them to remember could potentially be lost. And that would actually have a pretty devastating effect on many people's lives. About 53% of young people in particular reported to us when we did a survey on this that actually they would be completely devastated if that information got lost.
Well, one of my phones actually recently got lost, and I was completely devastated. What percentage of the people surveyed actually had plans for backup?
Well, I'm not sure about backup specifically, but only about a quarter of the people we surveyed said that they installed any security software on the device. I mean, probably, I would hope anyway, maybe the figure might be higher for backups because a lot of people sync their device via iTunes, for example, or some other mechanism. But at any rate, we know that a lot of people don't back up, and certainly not many people install anti-malware software in the way that they would automatically do that on a desktop or laptop.
Now, I'm guilty of both of those things, and I probably shouldn't tell the world that because I think I'm quite vulnerable to getting hacked. I don't have any anti-malware software on my phone, and I actually don't back it up. What does that make me vulnerable to?
Well, we see increasing volumes of mobile malware. We've seen exponential growth really since about 2011. So at the end of 2014, there were about 500,000 unique code samples of mobile malware. And these can do stuff from spy on what you're doing, to collect information, to sending messages to premium rate numbers, to harvesting information like contact details and so on. So the sort of things that we've all become used to as threats on our desktop and laptop, but people are less aware of what the danger is on a smartphone or tablet because psychologically, we tend to think of those as communication devices rather than as small computers.
Now, you and I have spoken about spying before, but I think it's always an interesting topic because a lot of people think they're not worth spying on. Should they have this mentality?
Well, I mean, I don't think anybody should be paranoid, but at the same time, we all should be aware that this super technology that we have is very sophisticated, and it is possible, for people to gather information. This is not the preserve of governments. This is something which is within the capability of regular criminals, people that want to gather information in order to distribute more malware, or in order to get information, like financial information, because people do store that kind of stuff on their smartphone.
Now, I think a lot of people don't have malware or back up their device because they think they're a little technologically inept. What can those people do? What do they do if they're watching this video now and they think, I should actually do those two things? Where do they start?
Well, it's always better to install apps from trusted locations. So Google Play and the App Store, that's great. Stick to the well-trodden path, because they do filter those locations for malware anyway. But actually, if you go into Google Play or the App Store, you can find apps which will take care of security for you. You can find anti-malware apps. You can find parental control apps. So actually, it's as easy as installing any other app, actually.
So at the end of the day, should we be concerned about digital amnesia, or should we really just take away from this that we must stay protected and prepared to lose our devices?
I think so. I think the second of those, we should embrace the technology because it's really, really useful. And it's becoming essential in the way that, let's say, up till 20 years ago, the telephone was essential both for business and personal use. So we should embrace the technology, but we should be aware of what the potential risks are and actually protect our mobile devices in exactly the same way we would with any other computer.